What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show, a very special edition of the Ben Garcia Show. You know, I've been having guests on recently. I had Jason McIntyre from The Herd. So a couple of weeks ago, I've had some other guys that have kind of came on, and now we have came all the way to the biggest guest right now, bigger than Jason McIntyre. Who even knows that guy or other people of this channel? But AZ sports fan, my guy Mike, who decided to come on with me. I was badgering him in his DMs. He was telling me, "Listen, man, it is not that time of the year where I'm giving away things." I had to twist his arm. I literally had to go through back channels to some of his friends and just be like, "Hey, this guy is a terrible person. Can we go after him and tell him to get on the show?" And then eventually I wore him down. He's on here, my guy Mike, AZ sports fan. I'll link everything he does in the description below. Mike, good morning, man. How are you, brother?
Good morning to you, man. I'm doing really good. I appreciate you for having me on. I'm really excited to talk some Cardinals football. I know this is a very, very weird time to be talking football, although there's still 2 games left. I know there's not a lot of hope right now, but hey, man, let's chop it up. I'm really excited about being on here, and I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Yeah, however you guys are listening, wherever you guys are listening, appreciate you guys putting the face to the voice, watching on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the Ben Garcia Show. You guys are the people that literally keep the lights on. This is the day after Christmas. We're tired. You are incredibly gracious with your time. I know that you're Hispanic. I'm Hispanic. They like to stay up until 3 a.m. partying and gift giving, and there's kids falling asleep on chairs outside and without blankets. Like, we are gassed. Both of our wives are asleep. I'm sure I'm waking up my wife right now, but I kind of wish we did this show on Monday. And it's a great place to start. I kind of wish we started there. And you DM me and I DM'd you, and I was like, oh man, it's frustrating because I have work now and got to move things around. But shame on me for expecting the Cardinals to win against the Panthers, which was very funny because in my pregame video, there was a lot of this. The Cardinals, this is a trap game. And I was telling everyone, this is not a trap game. They're not good enough to have a trap game. I said 2 weeks ago, I know they're better than the Patriots. I just don't know how much better they are than the Patriots. And there's this idea that, 8 wins or 7 wins, like, listen, we've improved last year. Let's start at Kyler. I have been a valiant defender of Kyler for years. Cliff Kingsbury, and I think it's still true, is a buffoon of a head coach. I think he was a beta. I've been at training camps where they had phone breaks and snack breaks. This guy is a horrendous head coach. He doesn't know what he's doing. So the Cliff Kingsbury thing I think is unfair. But now with Kyler, where it's 5 straight weeks with a horrendous interception, I'm including the Patriots one because the flag had nothing to do with the interception. I don't want to say, here's the problem. You say you're out on a quarterback, you can't go back and forth. Then you just become every analyst on ESPN, every analyst on Fox Sports. You're either in or you're out. So I'm really clinging on to life here with Kyler being the starting guy, especially because next season, they're kind of stuck with the guy. I don't want to be spending all next season saying this guy is terrible. Where are you at with Kyler? Where were you still on the, hey, listen, he could still potentially be the guy, and now you're like, no, it's not happening? Where are you at on it?
So with Kyler Murray, it almost kind of feels like I've been backing him for a very, very long time, and I mean a very long time. Even the whole Cliff Kingsbury days in the last year with the 4 wins. Unfortunately, got hurt, and then I started the heavy criticism on Kyler, believe it or not, on the very first year of Jonathan Gannon when he came in the 8-game stretch. That's when the criticism started to happen. So I was very, very like, okay, you're getting paid $200 million. I still do expect the level of you need to perform good. And you've seen some flashes here and there in that 8-game stretch. And then he finished off 3-5. And a lot of people were like, oh, we wouldn't win any games without Kyler. And that's the truth, right? Josh Dobbs, I don't think anybody's sitting here debating that Josh Dobbs should have been over Kyler. Nobody's debating that. But that's when my real criticism started to happen in that 8-game stretch. Because although the fact of the footwork different, the offense being different, although that was behind my mind, I still do hold my quarterback to a level of, I got expectations myself as a fan when I'm looking at this game, and I really want to see some progress. And then when that season was over, I was like, okay, let's clean slate. Let's look to see what the Cardinals can do in a full Kyler starting from the beginning of the season. He's got a full, what's called workout, OTAs, everything under his belt, and then he's going to be starting up fresh with Drew Petzing, right, with his new offense. So then we come into this season. start off 1-3, and then you start to see, a little bit more games come on. We get blowout here, then there's a 4-game winning streak. So to me, my criticism on Kyler has kind of started from the end of last year, but has gotten a lot worse since this after the bye week debacle that we've seen here from Kyler. To me, it's a weird place to be because I don't want to say I'm fully out on Kyler, but what's the word I'm trying to say? I don't have faith in him to win those big games. And that's a bad place to be. That's a bad place to be for any fan or anybody watching your specific game, because I think we can both acknowledge that because of that contract that he currently has, you are kind of stuck with him. And I hate saying that you're stuck with him. It's not like, oh, we want to see another year of him. I don't want to see another year with him, but we kind of feel like we're stuck with the situation that we're in right now. So to me, it's such a weird place to be because although I know deep down we're most likely going to be rolling with Kyler Murray next year, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to say I'm excited about 2025 when I kind of already know deep down what the expectation or what might transpire, right? Either a back season, collapse, or, we've all talked about injury proneness with Kyler Murray as well. This is the first year I've seen him healthy, right? You've seen some things here and there, but, they didn't keep him out in any games. So, like, I'm really worried about availability with Kyler, and can he ever win the big games? We just haven't seen it with Kyler Murray. So I'm close to being fully out, if that makes sense. Because the reason what's keeping me here is because I need something to hold on to in 2025. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to be seriously honest with you. I'm going to need something to hold on to. And even if it's 25%, 30%, that's what I'm holding on to here in this next year. But I just don't think he can win the big games. I really don't. I know a lot of people have gotten on me, but also a lot of people have kind of been turning. Now they're starting to kind of see what I'm seeing, because there's a big deficiency within this offense. And it's not all on Kyler. I want to be fully clear. It's not all on Kyler. But when you're getting paid the level that you're getting paid, you expect to win games like the Panthers game, right? You expect to not get swept from the Seahawks, right? That's the things that you expect from your franchise quarterback, and he just hasn't been able to rise to the occasion. So I know I kind of danced around that question, but hopefully that makes sense.
But it's the dance you have to do right now. It's tough because people see we do what we do and they're like, why don't you just say he's terrible? Well, it's kind of different with our job. We can't just come. If I come over here every day and say Kyler is terrible, he's not the franchise quarterback, he doesn't know what he's doing. If I have that topic every single day, I'm going to have nothing to talk about the rest of the year. You kind of do have to dance around these things where it's easy to jump from A to B if this isn't your job. But you have to get from A to B and do all these kind of dances to get to B. So you've exhausted every single option. It's why when sometimes I understand, like, people in our business, they're not super hypercritical right away and they give things time because they understand, listen, I can't jump back and forth because then I become Stephen A. Smith. So, the argument for Kyler, and you said it, is it's not all his fault. And the real criticism for me, and I've came fast and furious since the Commanders game where I went viral because I was basically saying, hey, listen, the Cardinals are going to destroy this team. They're going to destroy the Commanders. And then the exact inverse happened, and I had like 150,000 impressions on Twitter where people were just coming after me, which was hilarious, by the way. But sometimes you're just wrong. The argument has been it's not all on Kyler. And here's the thing that I've always said. Okay, it's not all on Kyler. That's okay, fine. He makes $45 million a year. Or $46 million a year if we're getting really specific. And he's got Marvin Harrison Jr., which we'll talk about in a little bit, but let's just say he's a 2. Like, let's just say he's a 2. Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, James Conner, and a pretty good, it's fine. Let's just say it's a fine offensive line. Bryce Young had old man Adam Thielen. He didn't even have Xavier Legette. He had old man Adam Thielen and Chuba Hubbard, who was on one leg for some of that game, and thoroughly outplayed Kyler. So if it's not all Kyler Murray's fault, who are we blaming? And I know the blame is, let's blame Drew Petzing. Yeah, Petzing is kind of awful. But the issue is, I do not subscribe to this idea that Petzing won't push the ball downfield, because in that Seahawks game when he had to push the ball downfield, he let Kyler rip it, and Kyler blew it. Kyler threw 2 horrendous interceptions, and everyone's like, well, you're down 21 points. Why aren't you throwing the ball downfield? It's like, he did that, and Kyler threw the ball to the other team. So I do think some of it's Petzing and some of it's Kyler, but What do you make of this idea that, oh my goodness, it's just not fair to Kyler? Well, I don't understand. He's not the
Yeah.
defense is terrible. When I preached in the offseason,
Yeah.
hey guys, the defense is going to be really bad. So the fact that it's been this good is kind
Right.
of surprising
Yeah.
this far of the season. Like, I expected them to not be great through some parts of the season. And just what are your thoughts on subscribing to this idea that it's not all on Kyler?
So I want to be clear, kind of running it back, because when it does seem like, when I say, or when somebody says it's not all on Kyler, it does kind of make it seem like an excuse. And I want to be very clear. The way I define that specific term, it's not all on Kyler, is that I do feel like there is a lot of variables that are going into why this offense is absolute doo doo. Right? It's a lot of things that are going on, but that doesn't mean I'm not sitting here saying it's not 75% Kyler. It's not 65% Kyler. And I do believe a good blame belongs to your franchise quarterback. So I never personally signed to the idea that whenever anybody responds back to that, like that thing, because I've been very critical on Kyler, especially in this 4-game losing streak or whatever we've been after the bye week. I've been very, very critical on him. And it's actually started before as well, but it's been more and more heavier. Whenever anybody responds, I don't even engage in the conversation like that. I really don't, because to me, when I hear that, right, that makes it seem like, oh, your excuse is coming up. The way I used it, especially in this context, is I do believe it's a good majority his fault. I really do. Like, this offense is bad because of the decisions that he's making, right? The dink and dunk. I don't think Drew Petzing has come out here and said, you got to dink and dunk, buddy. That's what you got to do, right? You got to get your QBR right. No, not at all. I think that's a decision that maybe Kyler's got ingrained in his head, because they're saying the ball needs to go where the ball needs to go. But like, that's not usually where the ball needs. If you're watching the All-22, there is plays to be made up the middle of the field, whether that's going to be Michael Wilson, whether it's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., right? This whole offense is a bad offense, and it's not all on Drew Petzing. And that's why on my channel or tweets that I put out, I never blame Drew. I never do. Although I believe that there is some sort of blame, because I'm not one of those guys that truly believe that, like, it's year 2. Let me just rephrase it that way. It's year 2 of Drew Petzing. To me, it's the next guy on the list, man. The next guy on the list. The next guy is Kyler to me. Like, that's my main focus. I'm not trying to fire somebody else. Even if the Cardinals do decide to do that, okay, then we'll get on board and we'll see exactly what happens with the potentially a new offensive coordinator. But to me, right now, my number one guy that I'm looking at is running this offense the way that it is Kyler, man. It's Kyler. There's no way, because it's Marvin Harrison Jr. is not the only one struggling. It's the whole wide receiving core. You know what I mean? In terms of numbers wise, right? Numbers wise, it's a whole wide receiving core. Michael Wilson doesn't have great. No, Greg Dortch doesn't have great numbers. Marvin Harrison Jr. is actually pretty good. And like I said, we'll talk about him a little later on. In terms of number wise, he's actually doing pretty decent. But I understand the criticism that comes with Marvin, because yeah, I get it. The tentativeness, the non-aggressiveness. I get all that different stuff. But to me, Kyler Murray deserves a good majority of the blame as to what the heck is going on right now at the Cardinal offense, in my personal opinion.
I don't know why I get surprised, but I still sometimes get surprised by fans, because I will never be paralyzed by being wrong. I've been wrong before on numerous things. I'll come on here and say I was wrong. It doesn't bother me. It's one of my favorite qualities I think that I do on this channel is, listen, I'm going to say something, but I'm willing to admit I was wrong. Listen, Petzing, the two things can be true. Petzing should be fired, I think, at the end of the year. I think someone has to be the scapegoat, period. I don't think it's going to be Nick Rawls, who's done more with less, or obviously JG, who I will get to later in this program. But I made the claim out there as well that was, listen, I could have been calling plays on Sunday. You have to beat Bryce Young. Like, there are just some things you have to do. And so we'll finish the Kyler Murray conversation like this. I think you have to keep him in 2025, because, I've had people reach it, just cut him. I'm like, okay, you can have the conversation, and this is where the defensive Kyler comes. You can have the conversation of cut Kyler Murray. That's fine. You can have that opinion. That's cool. Let's do that. Cut Kyler Murray. Here's the caveat. Then what? What's your plan? You want to cut Kyler Murray, and then what? You want to bring, and that's fine. Do you want to bring in Sam Darnold, or do you want to draft a guy, or do you want to? Here's the problem. Sam Darnold's never looked good without anyone else outside of Kevin O'Connell, and I was a huge Sam Darnold guy. This quarterback draft is seen as lopsided, to say the least, not very good. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and then a whole lot of nothing else. And Cam Ward looks more like a project instead of a prospect. what do you do? Would you bring in a bridge guy and then draft a guy? Or do you keep Kyler next year and understand you're going to roll with the punches, see what comes available? Because people also say, well, just tank for Arch Manning. Well, two things. Arch Manning hasn't played a singular meaningful college football game yet. We don't know if he's going to be good. We think he is, but we don't know. And two, you actually have to do the tanking, and ask the Raiders how that went this weekend. So this idea that you can just do that, what would be your plan? Is it just roll it out with Kyler? Is it as simple as that?
It, it's because I kind of feel like it's going to happen. It's kind of what I trained my mind to say, roll it with Kyler in 2025. But I do want to see something from this organization that you're making the attempt. That something has to be a backup plan, because I talked about this about over 2 months ago. You need to have a backup plan. You can't be rolling to 2025 with just Clayton Tune and Kyler, because although all we're hearing Jonathan Gannon come out and say is that, yeah, Kyler gives us the best opportunity to win. But of course, yeah, you look at your roster and you're stuck with the two options that you have, Kyler Murray or Clayton Tune. And because we've seen Clayton Tune in that small sample size versus Cleveland, everybody automatically admits to that. Oh yeah, he's terrible. He's god awful. He had one of the worst, performances in Cleveland. Okay, well, I'll give you that. But that's the thing that I hate. I hate being strapped down from an organization that kind of put themselves in this situation, right? And I'm not coming out here and saying, well, they should have kept, well, I'm not, okay, let me rephrase that back. People, for some reason, whenever I bring up Dobbs or whenever I bring up Desmond Ridder, it's weird to me that the Arizona Cardinals did everything in their power to ship these guys off, especially Dobbs. And I'm not saying Dobbs is better than Kyler out there. Comments, let me rephrase. I'm not saying Dobbs is better than Kyler. But it's so weird that the moment that Kyler got healthy and ready to go, we wanted to ship him off, right? Same thing that happened with Desmond Ridder. Now, I'm not saying those guys are going to be guys that are going to win us games, not saying that, but it almost kind of felt like we were doing everything we possibly can to make sure that Kyler was fully aware that, hey, this job is yours, man. This job is yours. You ain't going. You're a dude. You're the dude. That's what I feel like the Cardinals did. And I hate being in that situation, because now we're here. Now we're stuck in a situation where there's no other place to go. If Kyler unfortunately gets hurt, we're stuck with Tune, right? So now what I would love for this organization to do is draft somebody. Now, of course, we're not in a situation that you can get somebody in the first round, right? Heck, maybe not even in the second round. But if there's somebody that the Cardinals truly like in the third round or the fourth round, take a freaking flyer, man. Take something to see, hey, maybe they are fully acknowledging that, hey, maybe we can get a diamond in the rough. Just kind of similar that, the Eagles did when they got Jalen Hurts, when the whole Wentz situation, or the Green Bay Packers did with Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. One thing that I admire about those organizations is they actually prepare. They prepare for the future, where the Cardinals are kind of in a situation where they're still doing it, regardless if it's Monty or Steve Keim or anybody else. We just like to wait. We just like to wait and say, hey, let's see what is, and let's roll with the punches. Let's do another 2-3 year rule, because we didn't get it. I want this organization to be prepared. Like Monty Austinford said, his job is to replace you. He said that the first year or two, his job is to replace you. Okay, well, let's start it. Everybody acknowledges right now that there's a big deficiency within the quarterback situation. Even the Kyler stands. No, there's not really many Kyler stands anymore, because they've converted. But we all acknowledge that we're kind of stuck with him. Give us an organization that truly cares that we're trying to prepare, even if they're not going to work out. Okay, well then we'll go to the next route. Keep taking swings, man. Kyler's not going to win a Super Bowl for the Cardinals. I'm going to be very, very straight. He's not going to win the Super Bowl for the Cardinals ever.
How dare you say that? I mean, listen, he's never won a playoff game. He's made it once and he looked bad, and in every big game he's crumbled. Here's what I will say. The only thing that I'll say, and I know you weren't saying this, the Cardinals have never had a good backup plan for Kyler, and I don't think that's just them saying you're the guy, Kyler. Although I do think Kyler has changed emotionally. I do think he's not the same guy. I think he's become a more mature person. Just being in the locker rooms, being on the field, Clayton Tune sucks. He's awful. Like Clayton Tune is awful. And that's putting it lightly. Desmond Ridder might have been the worst quarterback I've ever seen with my own two eyes up close. But to your point, I do like the idea of drafting a guy and getting someone else in here, or a veteran. And I don't think the Cardinals have done a good job of pushing Kyler with either Tune or Ridder. And I think it's a really good point of like, let's get a guy in here to kind of figure it out, because those two guys, I mean, seriously, man, I don't know how they made the NFL. They were so tough to watch. We kind of wrapped up on the Kyler conversation. A lot of it is, seen as hating, whatever. That's fine. If you want to see me as a hater, go for it. That doesn't really bother me. You can put on the my thing is like, listen, put on the bird box glasses, put the pom poms up, and act like everything's fine. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hold the team accountable. And if
Yeah.
Kyler switches it up, I'll change my opinion. I'll go back and say, listen, I was wrong. That's fine. So far, he has proved all the doubters right and people like me who have egg on their face wrong because I was a real Kyler guy. Another guy that I feel like, unfortunately, I don't like to rub this in the people's face, especially when we're already going through something. I feel like I was pretty right about Marvin Harrison Jr. I liked Marv, and I told everyone, listen, if we want to draft the guy, you will get no criticism from me because he's fun, he's flashy. I still think he's going to be good. My thing is, well, this game isn't really one on the perimeter; it's one on the trenches. And you have a guy in Joe Alt who's the closest thing to a sure thing as Marv is. Do you think it is at least okay to question, we might have made a mistake there? We probably shouldn't have drafted that guy, or at least have the conversation of, he's not a bust. That's not what I'm saying. He has 800 receiving yards or something
Right.
ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying. My thing is, maybe we should have drafted someone else and got a Keon Coleman or a Lad McConkey in the second round or whatever it was. Do you think it's okay to have that conversation now, given the struggles that Marvin Harrison Jr. has had, which has been largely due to tentativeness? And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm not sure he loves football. Just being around him, I think being around him, being on the field, training camps, thing like that, and seeing Marv, I'm like, I know you're really good at football, and I know you're incredibly talented, but it's almost like the Marcus Mariota thing when the
Right.
quarterback thing came out, where I was like, oh my goodness, you don't like football. You just do this because you're really good at it, which is fine. It makes a lot of money. I
Yeah.
don't hold anything against the guy. But where are you at on Marvin Harrison Jr.? Are you starting to have second thoughts, or are you pretty much okay with it?
I'm okay with it, to be honest with you, and I think it's okay to have those conversations. I really do. I think anybody, because I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, you got to be okay with having these conversations, but also be okay with having the Kyler Murray conversations, right? You can't pick and choose with the type of conversation. You got to acknowledge the whole team, right? That's every position you got to go out there and do. But to me, like, I'm okay with it right now. When I start making I guess, a take or a situation like, oh man, SOS, we might have effed up here. It's probably after year maybe two or two and a half. But to me right now, I understand all the criticism, and I'm right there with you, man. There's some things I'm like, bro, you gotta freaking catch those balls, right? Especially with that touchdown that was completely like swiped out of his hand by Christian Gonzalez, and then those two balls from Kyler Murray at the end of that game this last week versus the Panthers. Like, some of those things, you're just like, bro, you got to do this. You gotta, hold on to those balls. So I understand the criticism, and I think they're rightfully so. I think there should be criticism on a fourth overall pick, because that whole same narrative, if you're getting picked up that high, the expectations is right freaking here, right? And that might have been the fault of myself and the rest of the media, right? And everybody else out there that were gloating the fact that this guy is going to be the next best thing since sliced bread, right? But we can't also acknowledge and ignore the fact that even Larry Fitzgerald, one of the greats, was coming out saying, "Yeah, this kid could be really, really good," right? But that's the thing about the draft, man. It's a it's a risk, right? Regardless if you're fourth or the first overall, it's all risk at the end of the day. Joe Alt, to me, I don't know how I would be. I don't know. Like, right now, I don't know how I would feel with Joel. I know he's doing really, really good, but like, in my mind, coming into the draft process, I couldn't justify the Cardinals using that fourth overall pick for a right tackle, especially when you sign Jonah Williams, right? Because let's call it like it is. I think the plan was always to move Paris Johnson Jr. over to the left-hand side. Although nobody wanted to acknowledge it. I mean, the coaching staff, not the media, but the coaches, they didn't want to acknowledge it till like the very, very start of the season. Although we all kind of knew that was going to be the plan, I couldn't justify it in my head saying, oh, we're going to get a right tackle of the future right here, because with that fourth overall pick, you don't want to be in that position ever again. You do not want to be in that position. So when a generational talent, and I know, quote, 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 generational talent is at your legs or at your feet, you got to jump the trigger. You got to go after that guy, because although right now you're probably looking, saying, man, you could have traded back, get Brian Thomas Jr. or Malik Neighbors looks really damn good as well. A lot of things are hindsight, but to me, I mean, a lot of us are talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. in terms of the badness, but his stats are pretty good, and that's with a Kyler Murray that doesn't throw the ball down the field, and Drew Petzing in a run-heavy offense. That's the way that I like to look at it, and it's probably because I wanted him. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like, sometimes when you wanted somebody, You train your mind to have all these excuses in the world, right? So that's kind of how the whole Kyler Murray situation was. So now we're 6 years in and we're like, oh crap, SOS. But with Marvin, I'm okay. I'm okay with him. I think the pick was still there. Like I said, I'm probably not going to make a fully judgment until, I don't know, maybe a year and a half from now or 2 years from now, because I'm a big advocate of seeing what he can do as he develops into becoming that guy. Because he is timid, man, but he's 22. He's 22. Maybe he's not having that that moment. But I understand. Sorry, I understand there's dogs out there, right? Malik Neighbors looks to be a dog. He's really young too, so there's that.
Yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that I was kind of looking at with Marv, where it wasn't just the 2 missed catches in overtime. It was the before that. Kyler throws, man, listen, this idea that Kyler can't throw the ball down, it's the biggest thing. Now we're just going back to the Kyler Murray conversation, but the biggest problem is I think Kyler has the best deep ball in the NFL before this year. And now for some reason he can't throw the ball downfield. And so with Marv, none of it makes any sense. That's why I say Kyler shares the load of the blame for everything. But Petzing, I don't understand. At times it took like 10 games for him to throw the ball downfield. But the Marv, going back to that, is there was a chance in that game to catch a touchdown on the backside of the right end zone. Kyler throws it perfectly, and he lost the ball. And I was like, Marv, you have to bail out your quarterback, because if Kyler makes that touchdown, we're not even having this conversation, because they win the game. Kyler throws for 2 touchdowns. Kyler runs for a touchdown. That's how close these margins are in the NFL. You know, I only want to keep you for 10, 15 more minutes. So it'd be wrong of me to not bring up the Jonathan Gannon conversation, because I talked about this. Now I do this stuff because I want to have major emotion. I as soon as the game's over, I flick on the camera. I don't even have a thought yet. I don't plan for a reaction video. I want it to be all, this is what I think. And then I want to see 5 days from now, do I still feel that way? And with some things about Kyler, I've pulled back a little bit because I was so harsh. Some things about Marv, I've pulled back a little bit. I don't know if I've pulled back on this one. Jonathan Gannon, I think, starts next season on the hot seat. Because here's the thing. We were all sold on this idea of, hey, this team is going to figure it out. They're progressing steadily. The rebuild is doing the turn. And I think it turned during that Eagles game last year when they beat the Eagles on the road. And now we have put the rebuild that was chugging along in just full on reverse. And now we're going backwards. Like, that's how bad it's been. And please spare me the argument of, well, listen, if I would have told you we were going to have 7 wins through 14, 15 weeks, you'd be like, hey, that's an improvement. No, expectations change. They were 6-4 through 10 weeks and controlled their destiny and had some even breaks to give to still get in the playoffs. And they crapped the bed. He didn't get them ready to play early in that Panthers game. I know the officiating wasn't great, but still, he didn't get them ready to play in that Panthers game. The Vikings game, he didn't trust his quarterback I was at that game. I'm like, dude, go for it. They're going to score. You've seen this. They're going to score. Go for the touchdown. There were multiple times this year he didn't get them ready. And the Packers game didn't get them ready. And there were horrendous penalties. I almost forget about that game. It was so bad. Is Jonathan Gannon still the right guy, especially in an offensive-driven league? I've also had this of like, maybe they're just trying to change the culture because he is a culture changer guy, and I think he's very smart. But it's also an offensive-driven league. Does Jonathan Gannon need to start next year on the hot seat? And if the next year we have a 6-1 season, is he out the door? Or are you still sold on JG and love what he does? And I'm kind of the same way too, but I've got to kind of question his methods here, because one of the things that drives me insane about JG is, one, his press conference the other day where he totally changed. It was, oh, we are here. I want killers. And then it's, we're just here for the fun of, by golly, competition. Like, that's what changed with JG. It was, we want bleeping killers. And now it's, well, heck, we get to go all the way to LA this week for a business trip. We just love competing. Gosh darn it. Are you losing faith in JG? Where are you at?
It's funny because, like, to me right now, my mind is not even at JG, but next year it will be for sure. Right now, it's it's one of those things where Jonathan Gannon, although shown some things here and there, that culture can be changed. And it's funny because, and that's what people don't understand, especially when you watch football. You got 17 games in a year, in a season, that things change, man, from week to week, right? And it really depends. And you're right. If people would have said 7 wins, people would have said progressive. But you're right. When you're starting at 6-4, it seems like an absolute bloody shame that you completely just killed any sense of maybe the Cardinals could potentially make, a playoff run. And they should have, man. They had everything in their hands with the way that the NFC West shook out. It is frustrating to see that, because you want to see your head coach have that same, what's the word I'm trying to say? Not narrative, but that same mindset of bite kneecaps, right? Because although I don't really watch the Lions press conferences to the point like that, but everybody looks at the Lions and says, "Oh, that's what we want to be," right? That's the rebuild that we're trying to go after. And you're right. When you hear Jonathan Gannon start off with that, saying fire in the gut, right? You want killers, you want violence, and then you come out like that. It does kind of seem like a slap in the face, because this Cardinals organization, or at least a lot of the diehards, were willing to back you and to say, "Hey, man, I know we had some struggles, but we're here, man. We're here to try to." And we're not a lot of us. Let's be honest. We're not a lot of diehards out there, especially because we always get outdone in the State Farm. But what I'm trying to say is, like, they were bought in. We were bought into the idea. So to your question, do I think the hot seat needs to be talked about next year? Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And especially because I've said this in a few streams ago, and I was talking to a pro Kyler Murray fan at that point, which has now changed, but now acknowledges that we're stuck. I told him that one of the main reasons why I would love to see the Cardinals plan for the future, and I'm not saying tank, but have a backup plan and have something like that, is because JG is tying his career to Kyler. He's tying his career, because if you have one more year, let's be honest, if Kyler comes back in 2025, if you don't cut the cheese and you don't do good, you're pretty much out. The guaranteed salary stops in 2025. JG, your career is tying, especially with all the things that you're hearing from JG. When everybody, the media asks him about it, it's all nothing but glowing remarks and like, "Oh, he's a warrior." I don't want to hear he's a warrior when you lost to the Panthers, the worst team in the NFL. Come on, let's start bringing some actual real stuff out of you, right? I get why he does it. He wants to build a culture that we're not throwing people under the bus. But at the end of the day, you got to call it like it is, because people are going to start questioning, do you truly think that this quarterback is going to win you the division, or B, the Super Bowl, which exactly what we should be going for year in, year out. But that's just the thing, man. The Cardinals, we rebuild for what, 5 or 6 years, and then we're good for like a year or two, and then we start rebuilding again. So yes, I do believe that he should be on the hot seat. And if I don't see him do anything, and I know it's not his fault, but Monty Ossenfort and him have meetings that they talk about the roster. So he should have some sort of input about bringing in another quarterback. If he has some sort of little sliver of doubts, yes, he should be on the hot seat to kind of make that answer long. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that some people, as well with Monty and JG, were like, "Why didn't you spend more money in the offseason?" And my thing was always like, why would you? First off, and to all these people that want them to spend all this money on the defense, like, first off, free agency is fool's gold every single year.
Yeah.
I think it is actually way smarter to be frugal, find one guy that you really like, pay him a lot of money. But outside of that, it's a lot of be frugal. We all forget about Jordan Phillips years ago. They gave him $9 million a year. He was horrendous. Sean Murphy Bunting was seen as their best guy. That he's been bad. Like, he's too busy hanging out with Bobby Altoff to really have an idea of how to play football. The Patriots a few years ago spent the most money and were horrendous the next year.
Yeah.
The Jags spent all this money on Christian Kirk, went to the playoffs, won a game. That's what it's been ever since. They haven't done anything after that. So a lot of it's done through the draft. A lot of it's done through trading. So the Kyler JG thing is this. He's not better than Sam Bradford and Sean McVay. He's not better than Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. Maybe you want to say Kyler's still better than Brock at his peak. I don't even think you can have that argument anymore, unfortunately. But Kyle Shanahan is so much better than both that still goes over both of them. Mike McDonald and Geno Smith beat the tar out of them twice this year.
Yeah.
Is it undisputable right now the Cardinals have the worst quarterback head coach combination in the division? And I'm not so sure how close it is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a good call out in terms of linking them like that. Yeah, I mean, in terms of what they've accomplished, I mean, the other head coaches and quarterbacks and what has happened this year, yeah, you could probably say they're down at the bottom. And it's unfortunate, man, because a lot of people, including myself, now JG wasn't my first head coaching option but
Mine
at that
either.
time. But of course, when you bring somebody in and something like same thing like Monty Austin for, you got to kind of back them, right? Because the whole let Monty cook thing, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, that probably came from the majority of this channel here, the AZ Sports Fan. That's what it mainly came from. And then, of course, it spread like wildfire. The whole let them cook didn't come from, obviously, that was the whole let Russ cook, and that's where it came from. And I was just like, let Monty cook. And then it kind of game, so that's kind of on me as well. So but yeah, I agree, man. I agree with the whole situation of, yeah, they might be down there, because the whole Brock Purdy thing, I don't even want to compare Kyler Murray to any of these QBs anymore. Like, I just want to see him to win. Just show me. I don't want to rank you anymore. Just show me that you can actually win a meaningful game. Show me that you can win the division. And guess what? Although Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant, he's proven that he can win at least a playoff freaking game and make his team competitive, every single year, with the exception of this one, of course. But he's shown that. Geno Smith, I was laughing. Oh, you're going to go in with Geno Smith as your quarterback?
Oh, man.
And then look how dumb we look. It's just culturally, the Seahawks, they don't go away. I don't know what it is, regardless if it's Pete Carroll or Mike McDonald, they don't go away. In my NFC West roundtable show,
Ownership.
Jake Ellenbogen said, oh, they're like the cockroaches of the NFC West. They don't go away. You're 100% correct. I don't understand it. I don't get it. They can go through a rebuild, but still win 7-8 games. Well, the Cardinals go through a rebuild and we're 4-win seasons back to back, and it's nuts. It's nuts. So Geno Smith, whatever he's doing, congratulations. And of course, Matthew Stafford, man, he's probably the best quarterback in this NFC West, and it's not even close. That guy he's clutch, and he's got a Super Bowl under his belt.
He might be the best quarterback in the conference.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I take him over, I think, everyone outside of Jordan Love. I think is really close. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. But yeah. Matt, that was never, and I never argued that. I never argued Kyler was better than Matthew Stafford. That dude is remarkable. The other two guys I argued, but you're right. I really love that point you said. I don't even want to compare him anymore. Let's wrap it up with this. And I appreciate you, man. You've been very, very courteous of your time, especially the day after Christmas. A lot of different things that we both have going on today. Let me ask you this final thing. Last 2 games of the season, I have always prided myself on my channel and the subscribers that I've been getting, and some of the recent exposure my channel is getting. I'm authentic. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to blow smoke, so that when I am being positive or giving a positive thought, it's genuine and I'm not lying to you. Yeah. I don't care about these final 2 games. I really don't. And I know that there's these people like, you got to win both. You got to. I'm friends with Johnny Venerable and Bo Brock, and they do an amazing job over at PHNX Sports. And both really, really great dudes. Here's why I disagree strongly with them. They were saying the other day on their channel, well, Kyler can win a lot of people back next year, or Kyler can get some stuff back if he wins these next 2 games and looks great. No, I don't care. They could go 9-8. Kyler could throw for 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 600 yards, and another 200 yards on the ground. I do not care. And I would love to bookmark. I don't care. I saw what happened when the lights were the brightest. And it's not just Kyler. Like, this is now, it's everyone. Yeah. If they go 9-8, I truly do not care. I am rooting for them to lose. I'd rather just have the better draft pick. I seriously would. I don't care about this idea of, culture. Do you really think Trey McBride, who, by the way, I saw something you had put out recently about Trey McBride doing the "we just bleep and suck, we're sorry," all that stuff, where I was just like, I honestly don't think he was talking about either team. I think he was talking about the officiating outside of the last part where he said that they suck. I think he was saying that the refs sold, which whatever, that's a whole nother thing. But I don't care. I don't think you can win these last 2 games and then tell Trey McBride, who says that we're sorry, and just be like, hey, man, we're 9-8. You think Trey McBride's going to subscribe to that? And I've interviewed McBride. I've interviewed Michael Wilson. Both these guys at the Super Bowl last year with another one of my colleagues. I don't think they're going to buy that. I don't think they're going to. I don't think it matters. Are you rooting for them to win these two final games, build the culture, and go into the next season 9-8? Which there's no chance they beat the Rams this weekend. You can bookmark that. But are you there, or do you just? Could Kyler really only hurt his stock the last 2 games?
One thing that I realized when people talk about culture is because they still believe in either A, the regime, or B, your quarterback. don't believe in what Kyler Murray can do. So to me, culture is out the window, to be honest with you. I'm being completely honest with you. They're not going to win the Rams game, guys. I'm sorry. If you think that is the prototypical fanboy, let's pretend everything's hunky dory, and that's the problem. That's the problem. They're not. The Rams are going to pay us back the favor what we did to them in week 2. They're licking at their chops right now with making us an example of, oh, you thought you were going to win the division at 6-4 at one point. I promise you, this is not going to be pretty. I'm going to sit back and still do my play-by-play, and hopefully they win. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. But I'm not going to sell myself to the idea that, oh, man, they have it. They don't. Not a bloody chance in heck do they have a chance. Now, the 49ers can be a wild card. I don't know what the 49ers are going to do. And because the injuries and what's currently going on, I know the fan base of the 49ers, they have their own situation going on. Oh, they want to fire Kyle. I don't understand it. They're the best head coaches over there. If you fire him, you guys are idiots. But okay, let them stew in their own.
I'd fire JG tomorrow and bring in Kyle
100%. But going back to that, I don't know what happened to the 49ers, but the Rams, take that out of your mind, guys. Take it. This is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be a bloodbath, and people are going to go back to the same thing of the whole Kyler Murray thing. That's one thing that I realized, and I put myself to blame that as well, because I was preaching culture because I believed at one point that these guys can get it right. Right now, my number one thing is I don't believe in this franchise quarterback. I don't believe in Kyler Murray, that he's ever going to be able to win us a Super Bowl. So that's what I feel like is the big deciding factor. If you believe it, cool. Keep preaching culture. That's fine. Culture is shot, man. When you have Trey McBride, one of your leaders, saying the things that he said, and you're right, he might be talking about the officiating, but at the end of the day, if they truly think this, what culture? What are you trying to maintain here, man? We're sorry AF. That's why we're sorry. We were, man. You can't lose to the Panthers and sit back and say, oh, let's carry this on to next year. And it's funny because JG has always been an advocate of like, oh, nothing carries on. Momentum doesn't matter. And then he was like, oh, maybe we can carry momentum to next year. JG, stop it. Stop it right now. You know damn well we're not going to beat the damn Rams.
He doesn't even think so. He's just laughing at it.
Yeah, he didn't have his hat on, man. He didn't have a serious. He was going on their hatless.
Oh,
that's how scared he was. Nah, man, this game's over.
Are you? Let me ask you this final question that I wasn't going to ask you, but are you bullish on the Cardinals next year? Do you think that there is a scenario where because let's just end it like this. Do you think there is a scenario where they, I don't know, trade for Myles Garrett, which I think is nuts to even think about right now, but let's put our pom-poms up and our fanboy hats on. They trade for Myles Garrett, they get a great deal on him. They trade for Micah Parsons, they get a great deal on him, or whatever. One of those guys, and I don't know, they get someone in free agency, and they fire Drew Petzing, and they bring in, I don't know, Joe Madden to come in and do the OC work. And do you think that there's a chance that they get it turned around and Kyler actually is the guy and they make the playoffs next year? Like, do you have any faith in that? Because I'll be honest with you, I do not. I don't have any faith that this team will get off the ground. And I'm so over it. I don't think it's the case.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it would be good for the fan base to see an organization actually show that they want to go for it, as opposed to looking at these 2 years and saying, bro, you obviously they don't, they're not trying to go for nothing, but progress is what they're trying to go for. It would be nice for the fan base, right, to see a Micah Parsons trade, which I don't think is going to happen. Or Myles Garrett seems a little bit more plausible just because of obviously the situation, but I feel like the Cowboys are going to somehow find a way to pay him. But anyways, if it would be nice for the fan base to do that. It's like I said earlier in this podcast, I would love to believe the franchise quarterback or Kyler Murray would be able to win us a big game. But until he does it, it's hard for me to come out here and say that he's going to do it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to back him. He's our, here. And that's the thing. When people say, oh, well, you don't believe in him, but you're going to back him because he's my quarterback. He's the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. I'm a fan of the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not a fan of only Kyler Murray. That's what people don't understand. I'm a fan of the Cardinals and I want them to succeed. If he somehow turns it around, then cool. I'll have crow on my face. But right now, I don't feel like I'm going to. I don't feel like I'm going to. I feel like the Cardinals something's going to happen, man. Something's going to happen, and it's not going to be pretty next year.
Yeah, no, that's not the case, because we are just so bullish on wanting to be our opinions to be right that we want Kyler to fail, and we want that's the idea that I don't understand with oh, you just hate Kyler. Oh yeah, no, I hate having a franchise quarterback. That's what I want to do. I want to just be irrelevant for the next couple of years. But hey, listen, The last thing I'll say about the Kyler thing is it can get way worse.
Yeah.
And everyone that wants to just push him away, I'm like, no. You got to have a plan, because then you actually could have Desmond Ridder starting, or Aiden O'Connell, whoever the Raiders are rolling out, or Drew Lock with the Giants, or I mean, God knows who else. Like, it can get way worse. I understand that it can be awful, but you want to better yourself. Hey, that is Mike, AZ sports fan. He's way too gracious with his time. Spent 45 minutes with me. 46 minutes by the time I'm done with this outro. Follow him on all social media platforms. I think it's AZ Sports Fan 1, right?
Yep. The AZ Sport. I don't know why I put a "the" for some reason. 6 years ago, I did it.
Because you're the only one. You're the only one. That's why you're the only one AZ Sports fan. Are you all Arizona? Like, I know your page is more Cardinal centric, but are you a fan of all Arizona sports teams? Everything. Are you the same way as me? We're all.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see the trauma in your eyes too when I said that. Okay, so we're both Diamondbacks, Suns, Cardinals. Okay, so we both hate our lives. All right, that's good. That's my guy, Mike, AZ Sports Fan. You guys, I'm gonna throw his stuff in the description below. Please go like, share, subscribe his stuff. Mike, thank you for being so gracious to your time. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. I'm gonna break out stuff from the show. I'm gonna get this stuff up. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for being so gracious with your time. And unfortunately, begrudgingly so, go Cardinals, man.
Absolutely. Go Cardinals.